right. So good afternoon, Sahithi. Please give a quick introduction about yourself, and then we'll take it from there. Hey, you're on mute.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for having me, Younify, and recognizing me as one of the entrepreneurs. So I take it as the opportunity to share my experiences and share the pieces of my journey and the transitional points which could probably help in creating a framework of thoughts, especially in the times of changes like this. So my name is Sahithi, and I'm the co-founder of the website called impactscientist.com. And I'm a gender equality influencer, a rural innovator, and I call myself a rural innovator because I've recently moved to a small village called Mori, which is India's smart village. So working on ground and consulting with the corporates and governments to kind of create a social structure and reframe the problems and solutions on the ground level. So that's a little bit about me and my education. Yes, I've done my master's in social entrepreneurship from San Francisco, from Hult International School of Business.
Thank you, Sahithi, and that's so wonderful to know about you because you're someone who has started from your journey from India, and then you've been to different parts of the world. You've studied in elite institutions, but then you've chosen something which is quite root to our existence, which is quite basic to our culture and our belonging. You have gone to the rural sectors of India, and I personally know you have been following your journey, and we talked a lot about your initiatives. And guys, you got to understand that she's someone who has seen the best of the lives and came back to the rural sectors of India. You got to look into her LinkedIn page for the kind of work she does. She works with the weavers. She works with the sweet providers. She works with whatnot. Anyone who is part of a rural setup, who's a rural entrepreneur. She talks to them. She builds a story around their journey. She gives a voice to them, and she is doing a fantastic job in empowering the rural societies. Not only that, she's also working on gender equality. Sahithi, if you can just put a couple of words around the work that you're doing around gender equality, that will be great. One second, please hold on. Yeah, please.
So initially when I was doing my master's in social entrepreneurship, because it was social entrepreneurship, like immediately after I finished my graduation, I came back to India, and I left to Sri Lanka after 3 months of returning to India because I was still not confident about which part in the social sector is going to make me happy. So I looked at the United Nations Development Program, volunteering programs. And then I found a volunteering program in Sri Lanka where I was teaching the locals. I stayed there for 2 months and was going from one school to another, one village to another, teaching the locals about what could equality bring economically to your life. So that is when I realized that without creating a product or a service or anything, just by creating awareness, you can generate economy. So then I came back and for some industry experience, I worked for a global social startup called Chizuba as head of partnerships. And then I realized that I want to kind of bring my passion and knowledge together, because if I'm passionate about something, I want to be working on it 24 hours a day. I want to choose something from which I don't need to take a break. So as I went on in the journey, and I took sustainable development goals as my blueprint to kind of make a decision within the social sector, what is the area I should pick. So as I told, I was interested in equality. I chose goal number 5, which is gender equality, providing equal opportunities and resources to all the genders. So I started writing about what are sustainable development goals, what is the 5th goal about, what is the scope of gender equality, and what is the literacy rate, employment rate, why is education not translating into employment, and why is employment not continued after, say, for example, so many social stigma is attached to a woman's life, and so many financial responsibility a man is being put to, which kind of puts pressure on the man to take less risk. So these are the kind of things I started writing about. And then I decided to kind of take women empowerment as a solution to bring equality, looking at the solution. And then I broke it down to story writing and consulting. And within story writing, I'm doing Impact Hour series, wherein I'm meeting women who are successful, who are in the industry, to kind of brag their experience and what actually causes them to be there. And then I took examples and wrote stories about men who are creating social impact and who are, creating empowerment platforms. So like that, I boiled myself down, and it really kind of pushed me to come to where 80% of our population is. It is in the villages. So if I really want to work with women at the bottom of the pyramid, I must be based out of a 2-tier or a 3-tier place, speaking frontally. So this is about equality. So the whole concept of equality and women empowerment has been my driving factor to do anything in the coming future also.
Great, Sahithi. You're talking about SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is a buzzword from a few years taken up by every government, not just Indian government. It is a global phenomena right now. Would you want to throw some light on the SDGs and the background behind the world body coming up with a list of SDGs?
Right. So when we look at the Indian population and the fact that India is a skill-based country, to encash the skill, we have to touch base the complete rural economy. Even the corporates take indirect help of the rural economies to stand by. So to understand the social structure of such a huge country and putting that on a global context, everybody, all the countries, they need to be on the same page or follow a same framework or guidelines to be able to measure the impact which we are creating or the initiatives which we are making. If we look at them after 10 years, like if we look back and if we measure the timeline, if everybody, if all the countries, if all the people, all the schools, all the corporates and governments, if they have to be on the same page, I think currently sustainable development goals, the global goals, are the most beautiful framework that we can follow. because if it also gives, like if a school child is looking at it, uh, at a very young age, he'll be able to decide that, okay, he's very interested in climate change. So he need not really, he can ground himself. There can be an analysis. He can collect data of his own level and then, grow with it, and then create a system and collaborate with others to bring a larger impact. Because sustainable development goals, I think 2.5 years back, the 17th goal was added. Earlier, there were only 16 goals. So the 17th goal is partnerships. So partnerships is so important that it really added value and meaning to the all other 16 goals. Because if we are working in education sector, we'll definitely have to look at gender equality or sanitation or industry and innovation. Like, are we connecting them to the right services? So like this, for so many systems and individuals to correlate to the social structure, sustainable development goals are the guidelines which we must educate ourselves about.
Yeah, rightly said. But what I've observed is most of the institutions and the teaching curriculum that we go through right now doesn't seem to have a clue about the SDGs. When you're talking about the 16 as well as the 17th one getting added 2.5 years back, I'm not sure if how many of us are aware of all of the other 16 as well. Said that, the 17th one seems to be the one that we have started with, and we both have partnered quite early into our journey in creating a sustainable business model around what you and I are doing in empowering youngsters. Right. So, SAHITHI, one of the topics that I'm more interested to discuss about today would be rural entrepreneurship. Before we go and talk to any of our participants today and take their questions on the messages. So you're doing a great job around the rural entrepreneurship and women empowerment and gender equality in all of those areas that you've been to. This can be split into two halves. One is, why did you choose to go to a place like Mori, and what attracted you to go and settle down in Mori from the flashy lights of the metros that you are quite used to. Now, I know that you've gone and settled down in Mori quite recently, a week back. So that's the first part of the question. And the second portion that we are quite interested in is your initiative around the rural entrepreneurship development. And how can our youngsters take part in the rural entrepreneurship?
So why Mori? I studied in Bhopal. My schooling was in Bhopal, and I came to Hyderabad after that for masters. For my bachelor's, I was in a rural place called Chirala. For my masters, I went to San Francisco. For my internship to Sri Lanka, worked in Hyderabad, now migrated to Rajahmundry and then to Mori finally. And I'm hoping that's the final destination for now. And the reason being, even looking at the objective reason of why I began this journey, I wanted to represent a group of people or a village, or to pilot the ideas, or to understand the ground world again, once again, post-COVID. Or because most of us, we go there for a case study or a field study and we come back. So people are prepared there to host us. We'll never understand the operational difficulties which our businesses will face there, or how we can use the human resources, or the rural ecosystems and the services which they can provide us. It all looks different when we go as a guest, and the whole picture changes when we actually stay there and we live with them. So when I repeatedly was traveling from Rajahmundry to Mori, which is 2 hours from here, I was working with an NGO called Smart Village Movement, and there were a catchment of villages they were working in. So when I looked at the weaving communities, cashew clusters, mango jelly making clusters, women who they used to create laces, that's a part of weaving. So now post-COVID, they're creating masks. So it needed a corporate to approach an NGO, to approach the government, to touch base the self-help groups, and a couple of more private individuals to transition that art of lace making and kind of redesigning their skill, providing a little more resources and the infrastructure, and then providing a market linkage. So it needs a whole lot of people, talent, to actually stay there at the ground and begin with research, empathy interviews, like kind of applying the whole design thinking concept again back on a sample of communities and people and problems to list out the challenges and opportunities, and then show the youngsters like how the corporates could show, or the data scientists could show that, okay, India needs food delivery. India needs this. So looking at that, we come up with tech solutions, which are like, you are running a tech company. It's a tech solution that you have provided to students, and it is actually empowering thousands of people. So that is the impact of an idea, but then you could understand the need, you could understand the niche area where real talks, or the community could not reach, you could reach. So like that, the whole picture changes in the rural area. So when I went there, I felt I want to be there because I want to solve the problems there, and I want to create systems or recreate strategies which I can from my end through collaborations. So that kind of motivated me, and also my partner was a great motivation for me in this journey, because he said, I'm ready to move. So every time I asked him, can we move to Rajahmundry? He said, yes, I don't mind working in 2-tier. I said, can we go to a Palleturu, completely small village? He said, I don't mind, let's start. So I think it's a collaborative effort. You need to like it and convince and create a community of people who believe you. Only that can become true. So that's why Mori. And I think I kind of mixed up rural entrepreneurship and Mori to answer your question.
Yes, you have. The reason that we wanted to have you on the show is also to discuss about our entrepreneurial journeys and to give confidence from our challenges that we have faced, because we both kind of share a similar story around the hardships that we had to go through to be what we are today. And I'll open up the house to the participants today to ask any questions that you would want to know about, from starting from how do you do an ideation about your startup idea, to what sort of a challenges do you think you may need to go through, and how do you come out of any such hardships that you might be going through as an entrepreneur. And we both will be more than happy to answer your questions and help you in many ways, because Together, you're looking at two companies here and abundance of experience here, where we can comfortably take up your questions and let you know how to deal with any such situations that we have already dealt with. So I'll take the first question from Bharat Reddy. Bharat Reddy, please go ahead and can talk or shoot your question to any of us. We shall talk to you.
Very good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak for a few minutes on entrepreneurship. I've seen a lot many people show me having a lot many jobs, how to be a successful entrepreneur and all. I can say that they are bluntly, they're not having any proper knowledge on entrepreneurship, and they are putting lots of money and they are getting a huge loss. At last they see the huge loss. Why I'm getting this much loss? They are not having any proper analysis. I can say analysis.
Right.
I can say analysis. Why? Because as an entrepreneur, we need to know some basic things. If I'm not wrong, if I wanna start if I want to become an entrepreneur, how I have to become? I will start with the startups, because startups is the best point for me. It will help me to get basic things. How to invest the money on particular thing, how to gain the profits, each and everything I will know. Slowly, I will build up that startups into vast thing. I will enhance my startup into different things so that I can build up my thing into a successful entrepreneur. I will give an example for this. If we want to construct a house, what is the main point? Basement is the main point. Here, startup is the main point. If basement is strong, entire building will be the strong. Same way, if our startups is strong, it is well being constructed very well, so that the entire building what we are being uplifting up to become a successful entrepreneur, it will be very strong.
Yes, Bharat. Bharat, I would like to highlight a couple of points here based on what we have gone through. I would want to give a clarity on a couple of things that you all need to understand. The most misused two words in this decade, or at least from the past 10 years, or even if I would need to cut short that to the most specific time, the last 5 years, is entrepreneurship and startup. Trust me, when I say this, I mean it, because not every person who has an idea is an entrepreneur. Not everything that we invest money into is a startup. A startup is something that you start with an objective to create value, not to just for one person, but for a community of people. Now, when you're talking about entrepreneurial journey, when you're talking about creating an organization only can be created when you have an idea or a product that can provide value to many people, a society, or a group of communities, not just for yourself or to a couple of people. If you are perceiving that it is a pain for you, and if you start now sort of finding out a solution because you had gone through that pain, and if you have come to a eureka moment saying that yes, you have a plan in mind now and you would want to now implement it and make it a startup and start selling a product or start providing a service, you got to hold on and ask one basic question. Is this a problem just to you, or is this a problem to the larger community? Is this a need that just you have identified and you have gone through and you have missed having it? Or is it something that the larger society would also perceive as a need and would be able to grab and adopt it? So when you cannot differentiate between what is your personal need and your personal pain versus what is something that is applicable to a larger society, then most of the people who have started their entrepreneurial journeys have failed. That is something that you all need to understand. Not every initiative can be termed as an entrepreneurial strength. Not every initiative is a startup. Now, that's, as I've said, that's the most misused word, and we'll need to understand from a right perspective. Sahithi, please add, and I'm looking for more points from you on this. Please go ahead.
So, Bharat, to take your question, I think even you are framing your question wrong by thinking about entrepreneurship in a wrong way, because entrepreneurship does not have any definition. So you cannot say that, people are investing into ideas. Because whatever we are using today is a product of so many hundreds or thousands of experiments. So unless an entrepreneur is failing, we are unable to get an efficient market. It's a process. Somebody gets an idea and that prototype doesn't work. The whole system needs to take the impact. So it's really not easy to take a straight on definition about what is what is an entrepreneur and how they perceive money. Because first of all, thinking about having no security, having no social security, and taking the responsibility of employing so many people and creating a system itself is a very challenging thing. So revenue, profit, and everything comes much later. So if that needs to come, there is a struggle of decades or years or months, depending on the idea or depending on the journey of the person.
True, Sahithi, very true. In fact, I was also trying to highlight that you got to also understand your product from not only your perspective, but also from the larger community perspective.
Yes.
You got to understand that this is a need for not just to yourself, but to a lot of people, even if they may not perceive that they have a need for that product today, but you should be confident that you'll be able to convince them that this is a need for them as you keep going. So that confidence of yours to make this solution that you have come across or that you have designed a universally accepted solution is what makes you an entrepreneur, or is what makes your initiative a startup. Because that is when people would take interest in what you're doing. That is when people will be able to invest into your idea. And that is when people will also take interest in being part of building it for you, because you alone cannot do it. I mean, you'll need a team of people who believe in you. Unfortunately, I have got the best team who have supported me throughout my journey. And all of this that you are seeing as Younify today is all because of that team who are supporting our initiative every day. So when they have believed it only because they know that this is not just Ashok's perception of what a startup is, but they have seen that this is a universal acceptance of what the solution can be. And if you can get that acceptance from many people for the solution that you have designed in your mind and that you are building in reality, that is when it becomes a startup. That is when it will have the prospect to grow further and become a company. With that, let us take the next question from Dheeraj Murthy. Dheeraj, please unmute your mic and go ahead and talk.
Hello, both of you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My questions, there are two questions actually, about youth and about women empowerment. Let's talk about youth. What's happening is, recently what I have experienced is, in Instagram we have a option called close friends. When you add a story, if you press close friends, only close friend could see your stories. What happened is, nowadays youth is not concentrating on their career or something. When I saw my friend's close friend post, I thought it would be something, a secret that he wants to share with only close friends. But when I opened it, he was with his friends having hookah and all. What are even youth is up to now? What are they thinking? And I have a other experience about women empowerment. You might have recently seen that Ekta Kapoor, some in a series, she used a army dress in some bad scenes. Okay, some girl posted in her Instagram post, "What's wrong in it?" So I replied, "Being a woman, you must understand." So she replied me back, "Be careful. I'm a feminist. Don't mess with me." I felt it very bad. How is youth going nowadays? Is it? It's very bad. I feel their way is very bad. Is there any way to put them in right track?
Ashok, can I take this?
Yes, please, Sahithi, please go ahead. I'm looking for you to take this.
Okay. Hello, Dheeraj. Thank you for the question. So when you speak about youth, do you differentiate yourself from the youth? Everybody is different. And for example, there are hundreds of companies which are created with the help of these social media platforms, social media being the platform. There are millions of people like me, and content, even Google has both kind of content. So the content filtration is very personal. What you're able to see on your screen is a result of what you search or what you follow or what you want to see on your home. So when you speak about habits, there is a clean line provided by the government, as in to say what is legal and what is illegal. So there is no good habit and there is no bad habit. A habit does not uh, define a person. Uh, there is a legal structure to follow when it comes to habits. So that should be taken care. So if you have a problem, you should raise an alarm, being illegal or legal. But I don't think it is correct to personify or objectify of what you see, because what impacts you is very personal to what you would want to filter and absorb from what is available. So that is my answer to your question on what is happening to youth and the habits. And when it comes to women empowerment, so I really don't know the context of why what has been used and why you commented on that. So Ashok, if you want, you can take this question on women empowerment and then I can add to it.
Yeah, you put me in a very tight spot. I mean, was it deliberate? So yeah, there's again no right and wrong answer to how to take this up, because Ekta Kapoor portraying something on her serial is again going back to what Sahithi has explained.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong. It's a fictional story.
Absolutely. It is about what do you want to absorb from it.
Yes.
Now, how are you perceiving it is more important. I would rather recommend you, see your second situation where you have commented and someone has reacted to it in a different way than what you have expected, is if we come to it at a later stage. The very reason that you have started thinking about such things and you have started questioning someone else's intention or intent, I would say you please focus your energy on what else can you actually transform into, and what impact can you make by your actions to someone else, rather than trying to question someone else's actions on you, because it is all about your perceptions of that person's actions. So there is always right and wrong around you. The very friends that you're talking about showing their hookah videos on the Instagram post may go ahead and become the CEOs of a company later on. You never know. It is not about what they are today, but it is about how they are shaping up their future in spite of doing all of this young stuff that they consider as cool. Because
sorry.
Yes, you are in an age where you feel all of this that you're doing is cool. All of this that you're doing is fashion. And in fact, this generation that we are dealing with, the generation that I'm interacting with through this initiative of Younify, are the most advanced, are the most focused, are the most, I would say, outstanding generation that I've come across in my entire span of looking at people and interacting with them. You know why I say that? Because I've also lived in Australia. I've interacted with a few other students from few other countries. And the gap that was there earlier from what we are to what the Western society is to the current situation or the current awareness that we have is much more, I would say, forward. So the gap has come down and we perceive things in a better way. We have a better understanding. We respect women and we treat them as equals, which is absolutely not the case earlier. Now we are moving forward as a society and we, the generation, are much ahead of the rest of the countries. In spite of that, there will be a lot of things that you go through as a young blood and you consider that as cool. That's okay. It's all about what do you perceive from them and what do you absorb that you would want to have with you, rather than how do you brand or how do you judge someone. My only request for you at this age is stop judging anyone around you. I mean, you be a path shower for the rest. That is absolutely okay. You try to be a leader and define a path for many people whom you can influence. That is fantastic. But if you can just stop judging someone by their actions and look at what you can do through your actions, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, and as we're talking about mental illness and depression, especially everybody is having a very different and deep story to deal with. So this is not the time we point out. Maybe you should write to your friend about how is he, why is he what you're not able to like. So, you know, that should be the approach. We should collaborate as a community and be there for each other rather than pointing each other out.
Yeah, I mean, see, are we a better society, or are the youth going towards things that they should not be doing? These are all perceptional. Please trust me. I mean, when we were not looking at the larger society, even we had the same perceptions about people around us. But when we have seen a macro understanding of what happens in every society and how things are put up and how do a society as such is brought together and moves forward, all of these things that you're thinking right now are absolutely meaningless. I mean, trust me, this wouldn't add to your understanding of what the society is, except for the little bit of exposure that you're having from your friends' acts. I would strongly recommend and also suggest you to come out of those perceptions. Stop looking at them or ignore them if they are hurting you, or if you are being put into distress because of such things. And you have a positive intent. So continue with it. Influence more people around you. Influence them to use their time in a better way, the way you want them to be, and make a difference. Look at Sahithi. She's making a difference to the youth. She's making a difference to the women in the rural sector. And she's making a difference to every one of you who is listening to her. So I would recommend you to take motivation from people like her and people around you, rather than being stressed with the things that you do not like seeing from other people. Just ignore. The best thing that I can advise you today, that my mentors have advised me when I was working, is selective ignorance. If you can learn selective ignorance, and if you can move away from the things that are hurting you and move towards things that would really make you a better person in life, you are doing justice to yourself and to many people who are following you. So please learn selective ignorance. You cannot change the society as what you perceive it should be. Perceptions are different. Everyone has a different perception. The same friend who is showing up his videos to you might think that what is happening to this society? Why is it so boring? Why cannot my friends appreciate what I am doing? So it's all perceptions. Please understand that there are good and bad perceptions, and we are no one to judge. India is pretty strong on judging people, so let us stop doing it. All right. Anyone else would want to ask a question? Yes, Giridhar, please go ahead. Giridhar, would you want to talk?
Yeah, very good afternoon. This is Giridhar, Bapatla Engineering College, Ahawade Chirala. and did my MTech in SRM University, sir. I have one friend, CEO Stumank's CEO entrepreneur. I just want to know the important qualities required for entrepreneur on one question. And then one more thing is, I find many students having a lot of ideas in startups. Some ideas are going to be startups to entrepreneurship. So I just want to know what are the types of entrepreneurship. 2 questions, madam.
Yes, Sahithi, please. The second question, if you want to, I can go with you.
Types
So
of
please.
entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So there are 2 ways you can divide entrepreneurship. First thing is to decide whether you want to start an NGO or a for-profit enterprise. So that, or a social enterprise, which is making an impact while you create profit. So first you make a decision between, okay, whether you're going into the development sector or public sector or service sector. So after you choose, then if you want to just start off by yourself, you don't want to have any partners, then you can start a sole single person company. And then there is a partnership firm which you can start. And then there is a private limited firm which will come with more perks, and you can and then you can go for a public firm. So within NGOs, again, if you want to go in the private sector, there is a trust, there is a society, there are foundations, or you can just be an influencer by owning a website. So especially nowadays, just like how options have opened up, it depends on the nature of your idea, the need of where you're starting it. The location matters, the geographical place matters, where you're starting it. So depending on if you're abroad, if you have a global market, then you need to have different set of guidelines and consider other things. So like that, depending on, I think types of entrepreneurship will be available easily on Google also, but to choose how to or what to pick within entrepreneurship, you need to work a lot, or when we are dealing with students, we need to understand which direction they're going in or what are they speaking about. So according to that, maybe it is easier to provide a direction.
Which entrepreneurship is going to be attract investors, madam? Investors, which type of entrepreneur? Easily
yes.
investors.
So just like enterprises, there are types of investors. There are angel investors. There are impact investment firms. There are grants which are given only to influencers and NGOs. Donations and sponsorships are given to usually the non-profit sector. And the grants are given again the profitable sector also. So entrepreneurship lo types unnattu. There are types of investment. So whichever area you're going, whichever firm you're floating, there is a type of investor who will always be ready to invest if it is effective.
Right. Coming to the first point or first portion of your question, sir, it is about what qualities does a person needs to have to become an entrepreneur. So I'll put this into 3 portions, and this is very important because these 3 portions are going to make a big difference to your journey as an entrepreneur. It is about how quickly can you come to understanding your product market fit. So there is something called product market fit, and I would recommend all of you to go research around it and understand your product market fit so that you quickly work towards achieving a product market fit for your product or a service. So it is about understanding how fit is my solution that someone else can adopt it and someone else will be able to use my product as a solution to their problem. So when you have come to understanding the product market fit, you're almost ready as an entrepreneur to take your stint and build a company around the solution that you've arrived at. But then while you're going through the process, there is a second point that you'll need to be quite vigilant about, and that is failure. Now, this is a negative word, but gives a lot of positive outcome for you as an entrepreneur. How fast can you fail? How quickly can you come to your next variant from the previous variant? Now, if I'm talking about failure, that is not a failure which is a compounded effect of all of your actions and then something that you cannot do beyond it. But I'm talking about a failure on a daily basis. A failure that will fail you on your different variants that you keep trying out before you arrive at your final product market fit. So if you prepare a variant today and if you can try it out with, let's say, 10 people, and if all 10 people have rejected the idea, then you have failed on it. Fantastic. Go back and then start working on the next variant, modify it, rework on it, and take version 2 to the same 10 people or a different set of 10 people. If 9 people have rejected it, but if one person has tried it out, and if he or she is quite happy with that particular thing, then you are more successful than the previous day, but you have still failed because 90% of the people have rejected it. Previously, 100% of the people have rejected it. Now, 90% of the people have rejected it. You'll come back, you'll work on a different version, and you may go back, and this time 80% of people would have rejected it, but 20% of the people have accepted it. So you're still failing. You're failing fast on your variants. But at the same time, on every variant that you're coming up, there is a progress. There are more people who are accepting it this time rather than rejecting it. Now, if you can work towards failing fast, because if at the same time, if you are taking, let's say, 1 month instead of 1 day to fail, that will make you, that will make you not a successful entrepreneur, because at a place where you should have failed within a day, you have actually taken 30 days to fail. So you have lost 29 days of productive work. You have lost 29 days of time that you could have worked upon in making a better variant than what you currently have. So the most important factor for you is to fail fast. And the third one, and an interesting one for me, is your capability or your ability to adjust to uncertainties. I keep telling this to all of my friends. If you're an entrepreneur, the first thing and the only thing that you got to love is uncertainty. If you cannot love uncertainty, if you are quite uncomfortable with the word uncertainty, then I doubt if you would become a successful entrepreneur any day. Because as an entrepreneur, every day we go through uncertainties. We will have to deal with uncertainties. We do not know what happens tomorrow for the actions that we are doing today, but we keep doing it with a particular vision and with a particular objective, and we would want to come close or go close to that objective every day. So while we are traveling towards that objective, we will face a lot of uncertainties, and if we become uncomfortable with dealing with these uncertainties, we'll not be having a smooth run. So of course, there will be a lot of uncertainties, but as an entrepreneur, we need to learn how to deal with the uncertainties. Just give me a minute. Yeah, so hope that answers your question, sir. And these are the 3 things that I would want every entrepreneur to be more comfortable with. First is to identify your product market fit at the earliest. How do you do it? The second point helps you to fail fast and to come up with the next variants, which will help you get your right product market fit. In fact, that's a personal experience where we have taken a lot of time in our journey to come to our right product market fit. And we had to go through a lot of hardships because of that. And the third point is, as an entrepreneur, your best quality comes out when you start loving uncertainties.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashok Garu. Thank you so much for wonderful qualities. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Please raise your hand and I shall let you talk. In the meanwhile, I would want to ask a couple of more questions to SAHITHI. SAHITHI, what is that role that you see for students in rural entrepreneurship? Because there's a lot that students can play here. Their potential can be utilized here to empower our rural sections. So please emphasize more on how can students be part of this wonderful initiative of yours, as well as help the rural entrepreneurs. You're on mute. Yeah.
So as we're talking about rural entrepreneurship, so connecting that with the student community, majorly the first 1 or 2 years, 1.5 year, the student takes time to kind of absorb the college environment, get used to the course they've come into. But gradually, when they are participating in volunteering or taking up internships or going and doing projects, and whenever they are thinking about applying their education into the real world, I think there needs to be a stoppage in urbanization, just like how people from the rural areas are getting migrated. Even the projects, somebody from a 2-tier engineering college also wants to go for a 30 days internship to Hyderabad only, to Kukatpalli. So that is a stigma which has been created by the system, because your ideas are more needed. The simplicity of technology, or we being able to look at the problems as opportunities, like how we are doing research about, if you have an idea, or when you're looking at the problems, we are only looking at providing the kind of solutions which we are told to. So the ideas needs to also go under the bottom of the pyramid, because we always talk about the bottom of the pyramid only. There is a lot beneath the bottom of the pyramid. There is 80% of our population, economy, money, resources, agriculture, value addition, packaging, self-help groups, women. So like these many things are available only on the rural upfront. So students need to kind of reshift their focus and kind of use their resources and technology to understand the villages and re-establish their relationship and refurbish the data which is available. Because right from food, right from the menu, like right from the ancient foods to endangered arts, wasting of the agricultural produce to the logistics, rural economy has every possible problem which used to, like, we have to kind of collaborate and solve. And students are the most important agenda, because they are the ones who need to come up with the futuristic solutions. And sometimes, because of what we are shown by the business community, we always think that entrepreneurship means coming up with a very complicated solution. Sometimes entrepreneurship means just making a small change in the existing system. Making the last mover advantage is also effective entrepreneurship sometimes. So I think it'll be very overwhelming for me to brief every point which I spoke, but this is the scope which is available. And the corporates and the government, the corporates are very happy to come and work if there is a slightly established system which is on the ground. So it is to work with our impactscientist.com. I'm soon coming up with a system where I can take in digital volunteers and so that we can bring in experiences of various villages where different students are based out of, and bring all the thoughts together. So as of now, the only way you can collaborate with me is through Younify, because we are looking at bringing few initiatives together based out of the smart village. So apart from that, the smart village movement is one program through which you can partner with me. So you can check out the website.
You have made a very interesting point while you're explaining about rural entrepreneurship, and you said a company or a startup idea is not necessarily a flashy one or a complicated one.
Right.
That's so true, because look at the rural sector and the opportunity that it presents. We are now more aware of quality food, not just quality education or quality of living. It is also about the quality of the food that we take. The discussion about the difference between A1 protein milk and A2 protein milk, it's in itself, we were not aware of the difference between this a couple of years ago. But with all of the advent of internet and with the globalization, we are now more aware of what we require and what sort of opportunities that the rural sector presents. And as you rightly said, it might not be a flashy idea for starting an initiative. It can be as simple as setting up a dairy farm to setting up a country chicken farm. And all of these are going to provide a lot of opportunities to the youngsters, because please do understand that career doesn't mean working in a company like Google or Infosys. Career means generating value out of anything that you are that you have taken up, and generating value to not only yourself but to the larger society as such around you. If you can provide employment to, let's say, 5 other people, or if you can provide employment to 10 other people by doing what you are doing, now that itself is a great initiative, and you'll get a lot of support from both the government as well as the banks and as well as the corporates who are trying to penetrate into this particular area. Because do remember this, the future of our country is all about not the quantity of the living, but the quality of the living. And the quality of the living is what can be defined through your actions in the rural sector. And you can work on stopping adulteration of food, to bringing all of these quality products to the right consumers by avoiding middlemen, and also empowering a lot of rural people by making them part of your entrepreneurship stings. So there's a lot of scope here. Younify and Impact Scientists have collaborated in that direction, where we would want to make a big difference through our initiative. Please reach out to SAHITHI. Please also talk to us. We shall have more such sessions with SAHITHI going forward, and we'll be able to take up one topic every week. Probably we will evaluate your ideas, and we'll also be able to give you suggestions on what to do and how to take that forward as an initiative. SAHITHI will act as your consultant to guide you around how can you start up your rural entrepreneurship initiatives. And please take this opportunity, present your ideas, come with good questions, and make this discussion interesting. Hope we have added value today. In the interest of time, SAHITHI, thanks a lot for being part of this discussion, accepting our invitation to talk on the show. We'll have you every week at the same time. And SAHITHI is also going to be part of a panel discussion tomorrow at the same time. We have 4 eminent panelists who are going to discuss about opportunities and challenges, especially in both in the corporates as well as the rural sector. And that's going to be sort of a debate as well tomorrow. So let's join the panelists tomorrow. And with that, we'll take a leave for today. Thank you all. Thanks for joining, and wish you all the best. Have a great day. Thank you, SAHITHI.
Thanks a lot.
Any last words from you?
So my last words, without wasting, I would just give you a small example. Sometimes we think entrepreneurship is rocket science, but a small company came up with a solution of adding 4 wheels to a huge plastic tank, which we put onto the rooftop. So rural areas, it is very hard to carry water from the water source. They, take 10, 20 liters of water on their head, on the shoulder. They have to walk so many kilometers. So after so much of breaking head of so many decades, a small startup came up with a solution of adding 4 wheels to a 100-liter tank, which can be just pushed like how we push luggage in the airport. So that also adds a lot of security to the women, because they don't have to spend 4 to 5 hours just to bring 5 to 10 liters of water. So rural economy, if you come to the ground, you'll be able to see and find and explore so many ideas for your startups, small scale, large scale, there's a lot here on the ground. I urge everyone to please read the Sustainable Development Goals and to learn a lot about the rural India and the potential of the bottom of the pyramid.
Thank you, Sahithi. Thank you for your words, and thank you for joining us today.
Hello.
We safely call this Saturday with Sahithi. So we shall have you again on the next Saturday on the same show. Guys who are wanting to talk still, we are running short of time. So we'll have to conclude the call today, unfortunately, and I'm sure we'll come back and talk again on a different show next week with the same host and with the same guest. So thank you all for joining. Wish you all the best. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye. Sahithi, thanks for joining once again.
Thanks for having me. Bye.